can follow along. Today we are going to be working out of your workbook, and we're going to all turn to page 13 if you want to follow along. If at any point in time we get moving and I haven't told you where we're at, just ask. Sometimes I'll start just going and I won't pay attention to where we're at. So just let me know if you have a question or if you want to know where we're at and we can help you. I'm going to pass out another handout for you. So many questions we have. So this is another list of questions. What I'm handing out right now is Drucker's 5 questions. They're also on the board behind you guys here to the left. Well, so they're larger if you guys wanted to see it that way. Peter Drucker is an individual that has helped many agencies in their strategizing. He also wrote, has anyone ever heard of the Accountable Agency? Okay, so Peter Drucker is the one that wrote that. So we're going to refer to Peter Drucker a lot today. He is actually not part of ROMA, however, he has helped, thanks Tom. He has helped ROMA, well, he's helped create ROMA a little bit. Not exactly, but he's helped us a little bit. So when you are looking at planning, these are some of the questions that you need to look at when you're looking forward. What is our mission, which we are going to accomplish today, just in a minute, and who is our customer? So when you're developing your plan, you need to know who it is that you're serving. What does the customer value? What are our results, and what is our plan? So this is what we're going to go over the first part of today. And right now we're going to look at the ROMA cycle. So over here behind Shelby, there's the ROMA cycle. And we're going to jump into the very first part of it. It's assessment. Sorry. You're fine. I'll sit right here. So we're going through assessment, which is community needs and resources and agency data. The next we're going to go through planning, implementation, achievement of results, and the evaluation. The first step of assessment is creating our core. Can I get our logic model?
The stickies?
The stickies, yeah. Maybe I should take this off too. The first step of creating a logic model, which we are going to go through today, is we're going to create the foundation. And the foundation of any agency and any organization is the mission statement. So first and foremost, I wanted to show you what Drucker says the 4 key components of a mission statement are. The first one, we need to know our population, who is our customer, who we're serving. The next one is the outcome, so what it is that we expect to achieve. The next one is service, what are we going to do to get that outcome? And the last one is the relationship. This one is a tough one to include sometimes because we don't actually know, or we don't always include who we're working with. This is a partnership, this is a collaboration, the Community Action Network. This is what's going to be involved. I've actually already created a few here. I've written down a few for us to look at. So Feeding America, everyone's familiar with that organization? Their mission statement is to feed America's hungry through a nationwide network of member food banks and engage our country in the fight to end hunger. Their mission statement has a population, a relationship, an outcome, and a service. The population is what? America's hungry. The outcome that they want to achieve is to end hunger. And the service that they're going to do, so how they're going to get there, is they're just simply going to feed. And the relationship that they're creating is and I'm sorry, I'm cutting in front of you, is the nationwide network of member food banks. This is the relationship, this is the collaboration that they've created. The next one is Make-A-Wish Foundation. I don't know if it'd be easier if I come on this side. Is that better? We grant the wishes of children with life-threatening medical conditions to enrich the human experience with hope, strength, and joy. So what is the population they're serving?
Children with life-threatening.
And the outcome they want to achieve?
Happiness.
The entire bottom line, enrich the human experience with hope, strength, and joy. And the service of...
Magic job with that boy.
But
Yes, they did.
That was phenomenal.
that was neat. Did you guys all see that?
Yeah, that was good.
Make-A-Wish Foundation just turned the entire city of San Francisco into Gotham City for one young man. It was just fantastic. And he saved Louis the Seal from the penguin. And the service that they gave, not for the Bat Boy, but in their mission statement, is to grant wishes. And the relationship is simply we. It's a very general term, and we probably could nail that down a little bit harder. But it could be the community, it could be the networks, it could be partnerships, it could be anything. Now, something that these two have in common. A mission statement needs to tell you why you're in business. So you as a board all need to understand why you're here. Your mission statement needs to tell anyone looking at your agency what you do, what you plan to accomplish, and how you plan to get there. Does anyone here know the mission statement? Maybe I can help.
It was on the back of our name thing, right?
Any
Yes, we can put extra tickets.
That's actually a very good point. It was on the back of what?
It's on the back of our little name tag we get when we come to the end of the support.
And
So it's-
the partial is on all our business cards.
It is. What's so nice about that is anything that's brought up, you can then look at that and see if it challenges it or if it's part of it.
Fantastic. So you guys don't need us. We're done.
Okay.
Let's
Well,
have lunch first.
I've been looking forward to the lunch. And then when we come back, all blue has to sit over here.
So I think someone just earned another point for that. So Joan's right. Your mission statement needs to fit on the back of your business card or the back of a t-shirt. So it needs to be short, concise, to the point, but it also needs to say so many things. It needs to tell people why you're in business, who you're serving, and how you're gonna get there. And then who you're doing it with. Because as you guys know, we can't do this on our own. So, even though it sounds like you guys look at it every day, does that look familiar? Someone wanna read it for me?
CAA serves as a catalyst to reduce poverty and its symptoms through providing quality services, empowering individuals, developing resources, collaborating with others, and advocating on behalf of economically and socially disadvantaged, improving the conditions in which people live, learn, and work.
Bit long for a t-shirt.
We only put up to symptoms on the business cards.
So I'll get an extra large.
Yeah.
It would fit on my t-shirt.
We're gonna come back. We're gonna come back to this, but I'll put these down to give you guys some help. We're gonna do an activity and you're gonna pick out these key elements out of mission statements for me, okay? So, I will hand these out, and if we can break into groups, we've got an odd number, so we'll have, is 5 too many? You guys okay working?
Oh, yeah.
It's fine. So we will do this whole side here.
Here, roll our chair around over there.
Yeah. There's extras. I'll put more into him.
This table. You guys are all gonna work together now, okay?
We're gonna try.
You have to be nice.
Food will help. It always does.
For support and train CSBG funded agencies utilizing our collective strength to eradicate poverty. So did you guys come up with a population?
CSG funded agencies?
Okay, and what was their outcome?
Well, that was a little bit of a discussion
Okay.
point. Initially we say it was to eradicate poverty, but my argument is that really our outcome is to strengthen our collectives. Utilizing our collective strength to it, that whole statement has to be the outcome.
Okay,
Because eradicating poverty is that was just my argument.
Well, very good. Actually, you guys all are correct. So the ultimate goal, regardless of how you get there, is to eradicate poverty. However, you are on the right track because the relationship that you're creating is it's not too definitive, but it is the collective strength of the funded agencies. That's your
You won that
relationship.
argument.
Well, you're
That's
both
what
right.
she said.
But you know what, I think we all agree that it's a weak relationship statement in it.
This is basically our,
we
really
gotta
our
put
collective
it down.
strength, it's our, it's us, it's we.
It's like the we that we had up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the services, what services were you going to offer in order to get your outcome?
Advocate, support, and train.
Very good. How about number 2, in partnership with the community to assist low-income people to achieve self-determination? Who are you serving? What's your population? Very good. And the outcome?
Achieve self-determination.
Good. Now, is that clear? What is self-determination? Is that kind of relative to the individual?
Yes.
So maybe if we could pin that down a little bit more, maybe they need to work on that one a little bit. What was your relationship?
In partnership with the community.
Good. That's actually a strong relationship right there. And the service?
To assist.
Kind of vague again.
Yeah.
Yet again, we're kind of vague. So as we can see, there's a pattern. We need to drill it down to get very, very descriptive. Okay, next group, number 3, creating solutions to poverty, semicolon, improving lives in our community. You've got 2 statements in your mission statement. So what is your population? Who are you serving?
For the lives of the community.
You can, yeah. It doesn't actually, because it's 2 statements, it's very vague. It doesn't actually pinpoint a specific population. You're just creating solutions to poverty and you're improving lives. Well, it could be any lives.
Right.
Very good. So your outcome,
Improving
improved lives, very good. The service,
solutions to poverty.
so there's a question mark at the end of your statement. You're right, because it's very vague. We don't know. We're assuming that they're trying to say they're going to serve by creating solutions. And
Well,
it
we're
was,
gonna eliminate it, you see that?
Oh, that's number 4, Julie.
Oh, sorry. Well, they're both ours.
right. Was there a relationship in this one, in number 3?
Really weak, maybe community.
Yeah, there wasn't really one. It's very vague, yet again. I pointed out that there's a semicolon in this one, in number 3, and that's because it's a little important. 2 statements doesn't make one. It doesn't make one mission statement, so it makes it very difficult. Number 4, to eliminate the causes of poverty by strengthening low-income individuals, families, and communities through self-sufficiency initiatives in XX County. Who are you serving? What's your population?
Of low-income individuals, families, and communities.
Very good. The outcome that you wish to achieve?
Eliminate the causes of poverty.
Very good. And possibly strengthening is part of that?
Yeah.
Possibly. The service, how are you going to get there?
Through self-sufficiency.
Self-sufficiency initiatives, very good. And was there a relationship?
Well, we thought it was kind of weak, but XX County could be the relationship.
Possibly, or it could also be the population you're serving as well. Very good. Well done. The next group.
I didn't even know we did that.
All right, now we go get some sugar.
All done, let's go. Number 5, to propose, implement, and advocate developmental and human service delivery programs for socially and economically disadvantaged children and families. Do you have a population?
Yeah, no, that's the only part that was really clear. The socially and economically disadvantaged children and families. The
Very
others
good.
are just really nebulous.
Okay, so like the outcome, was there an outcome?
Well,
Not really.
not really,
Yeah, because we don't know what we're going to do about them.
Right,
We know we're gonna help them, but how?
probably because the services are nebulous. Not sure what it means to propose, implement, and advocate. That doesn't tell you a lot, so maybe that
Pretty vague.
contributes to the fact that you don't know what's gonna happen if you don't know what you're actually gonna do.
So if we don't provide these services, we still don't know if these people are gonna get served.
Right.
Okay. And was there a relationship? No.
No, it's just sort of implied, but it's not very clear.
Now, do you want to imply anything in the mission statement, or should we
Probably
state
not.
it clearly?
Should be stated clear.
Very good. Number 6, was 6 any better? To work with other agencies, jurisdictions, and the people of YY County. Shh, you're not supposed to answer. No, I'm just kidding. And the people of YY County to plan and manage social services and to achieve a safe and healthy community. Was there a population?
No,
Very good. So perhaps the people of YY County, perhaps?
Mhm.
How about a relationship?
not necessarily, because it may be YY County's helping you with
That's
XX
right, we
County.
assume they could have been part of the relationship.
Good. What was the relationship that they're mentioning here?
Working with other agencies, jurisdictions, and the people of YY County.
Good. So that part's clear. And what service were you going to provide?
Plan
To
and
work and to
manage.
plan and manage.
Plan and manage social services.
Which is not very clear either.
And was there an outcome?
Achieve safe and
That's
healthy
it, healthy
community.
So at least we know what we're fighting for, right?
Yes.
Very good.
Yes.
Good job.
Unless community is really vague, is this like a global community or what?
It could be whatever you want.
Right.
Which is not really what you want in a mission statement.
Very good.
Well, there can be some advantage to some vagueness.
Yeah, working with regulators.
Well, because then you get to do what you need to do to achieve what you interpret as your mission. If you're not confined by your mission.
It depends on, actually, you're correct. So it depends on what your goal is. Looking at the 6 national goals, there, you can see in the parentheses, there's something that says family, community, or agency. Lucy kind of alluded to those earlier. So if you are working for individuals, if you're working to help low-income individuals, then you're going to want to say that in your mission statement. If you are working to improve your community, then you're going to want to use a term like community. Because your community could be your county, it could be your region, it could be drilled down even tighter, it could be your neighborhood. So if you are out to serve the community as a whole, then you're going to want to use that vague term. If you're working just to improve your agency, then you're going to want to specify that. So actually, John's correct. It depends on who you're serving. Very good.
Would depend also on the nature of your group. If you're a one-man shop, you can just kind of fly by the seat of your pants, but the more complex your organization, if you're gonna have some sort of coherence among different groups, lots of ambiguity doesn't necessarily work in your favor.
Would it be nice to all be on the same page?
One would hope so.
Yes.
For success, you would certainly want
So that's our goal, is so that we're all speaking the same language, because you guys are all working towards the same goal. And right now, we're trying to define what that goal is. So looking at number 7, can someone read that one for me?
I'll read it. To distribute block grant funds through an effective and efficient means to promote and development of economically viable communities and a suitable living environment by creating sound and adequate public facilities, utilities, infrastructure, housing, and job opportunities.
It's a mouthful, yeah?
It's a large T-shirt.
It's a very large t-shirt. Just a tip, FYI, this is a state office mission statement. So, is there a population that they are serving?
to. No.
Nope.
No, there is not. What's the service that they want to offer?
Distribute block grant.
Distribute funds, correct. And is there an outcome?
To
To
promote the
distribute
development.
the block grant.
That's the service.
Really?
Yeah.
To promote
Might
the
be
development of
their outcome.
economically viable communities, is that their outcome?
Correct, yes. Promote viable communities and environment with the items that they listed. Very good. Is there a relationship in this one? So they're gonna do it all on their own. Number
And
8.
The assumption is if they're a state agency, it's probably the population of the state, but you don't know that.
Yes, and charge it
But
double.
if I didn't tell you it was a state office, then we would have no
I had
idea.
no idea.
Yeah.
But still, the other issue I'm looking at, if that's a state, that's their outcome is to distribute the block grant. That's what they want to do in an
By
effective
doing that,
way.
by doing that and distributing the grant, what are they hoping to achieve?
Well, I'm not saying that this tells that, but it just says that's the outcome. Because there isn't anything
But-
really, there's nothing you can evaluate here.
But that's why it's the service. Their job is to distribute the money. What are they
Right.
gonna do and what's the money gonna do is supposed to be the outcome, and
Right.
the outcome's not
The
noted
purpose of the
in
funds
there.
are gonna do what?
It's not noted in there.
All it talks about is how they're gonna distribute.
That, they're just saying, this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah,
And you could have.
We don't know to who, and we don't know what they're gonna do with it,
Right.
but this is what we're gonna do.
right,
They,
we're gonna
they probably could have improved on it by saying since at the state, since they're perched at the state level, maybe having a functioning, compliant, contractor network, or something to that effect.
So there's some key words that we can use to help us as cheats. Usually the word through or the word by is leading into the service. So that's kind of a cheat for us. So we say we're going to do this through these services, or by offering these services. Another cheat is the word to. So they're going to distribute block grants through an effective and efficient means to promote the development of economically viable communities. So they're saying, in order to do this, we're offering these funds. Is that helpful? Number 8 is kind of the opposite of 7. To provide programs leading to self-sufficiency in XY County. Is there a problem with this one?
Well,
No relationship.
Who are you leading?
Very
The
good.
program?
So who's our population? What people? Who's going to become self-sufficient? The next question is, what's the outcome?
Self-sufficiency.
Okay, is your self-sufficiency possibly different from mine? So using a word like self-sufficiency is great when we're narrowing it down to the type of people that we're talking about. So say if we're talking about low-income individuals and we want to promote self-sufficiency, that's fine because now we know what that means. But if we say self-sufficiency for an agency, that's a completely different story. How about this service?
Programs, it's too vague.
To provide programs. It's too what?
Too vague.
You're right. However, it's the only element in here, in this mission statement that we can identify. Is there a relationship?
No.
No, there's not. So we can keep going if you want. Number 9, to be the single voice of Community Action Network.
I like that one, that's great.
So all I'm going to do is speak loudly.
That's on Tom's business card.
That works.
And you're the only one who
And
can
I'm
do
in.
it.
I'm in. I'm going
Nobody
to
else
squash
can do it.
everyone else.
Nobody else can do it.
Very, very true. So the population, who is it that I'm helping?
There's no population.
It's whoever I'm speaking to, technically, or you know. The service, just to be or not. To be the voice of how and why and what am I going to say. Is there a relationship?
No.
And the outcome?
Voice to be.
To be the single voice yet again. So this one's really, really difficult. How about 10? Can you guys hammer out number 10 together? Someone want to read it? Someone want to read it out loud?
To administer grants which provide assistance to the low-income citizens of the state to promote self-sufficiency.
Okay, who are you serving?
Low-income citizens in the state.
Okay, and how are you going to serve them?
Administer grants.
Administer grants.
All right, and is there an outcome? What do you want to get out of it?
Self-sufficiency.
Perfect, and is there a relationship?
No.
Assistance. Unless you know your low-income citizens, you're well.
No. It's-
Well, and
Giving the grants
the
to-
relationship is to who we're going to do it with. Who are we going to work with in order to help these individuals? Very good. So this leads us back to this page.
Well, that looks better now.
Very good. So CAA serves as a, yeah, you guys can head back to your spots if it would be easier.
Oh, yeah, we can do that. We can let you go.
Bye. CAA serves as a catalyst to reduce poverty and its symptoms through, there's that keyword. So I'm gonna start naming off what now? I said through, what are we?
Services.
Services. We'll start talking about services. Through empowering, through providing quality services, empowering individuals, developing resources, collaborating with others, advocating on behalf of the economically and socially disadvantaged, and improving the conditions in which people live, learn, and work. So there's another key word that you guys have nailed in your mission statement, it's the word collaborating. What is that?
Tells you who you're gonna do it with.
It's your relationship, very good. So what's your population?
Economically and socially disadvantaged.
Okay. And the outcome that you want to achieve?
Reduce poverty under conditions.
To reduce poverty and its symptoms is your outcome, very good. And the service?
There's a whole
Services
list of
empowering, there's a lot.
There is.
Providing, empowering, developing, collaborating, and advocating. Maybe we could just put all that in there and just, that'd be great.
Smush it. So, I'm not here to change your mission statement, just know that. It's just to help you realize, and FYI, you have all 4 key points in your mission statement. Now, it's up to you to decide if you wanted to narrow it down or what you wanted to do. Who helped you? Who did this? We all
It's been around
We
for a
all
little
did it.
bit, so, Larry actually has some suggestions from the first session, so we just haven't covered that ground with everybody yet.
Good.
So it may change.
That's wonderful. However you guys decide to do it, just remember that you need to keep in mind your 4 key points when doing this.
I do have a question, and maybe it's, the idea of relationship, now obviously it's written in a book and somebody smarter than me has thought about it. But what if you are a person, a organization, that there is nobody to have a relationship with? I mean, you're the only person. Say we're the only agency providing social services. What is your relationship then with your customer, or is it with other people, or is it with your funder, or?
It very well can be, or it could be actually all of the above, to be honest with you. So you need to work in relationship with your funder. You also need to go out and collaborate with other partners that can help you.
I'm just saying, what if there are no other partners?
What if
out
you're
there?
it?
Yeah, we're the lone ranger. And I'm not thinking in terms of community action, which may be wrong, but there's other 1,000 other things that we're involved in that, but I can see that you need a relationship or there's no
The
reason to
government
exist.
will work with you.
Yeah.
They're very, very generous.
Some government agencies.
You know what I'm saying?
I do,
Because I
actually.
noticed all these are like bringing agencies together and collaborating with partners in the community, but there might be something that you're doing, but there ain't nobody to collaborate with.
And
You're the lone ranger.
You're right. And most of us in rural communities actually have that dilemma.
Right.
Relationship is the one key element that is typically left out for that specific reason. Community action actually, and again, we're not always talking about community actions.
Right.
So, but luckily,
Right.
that's one of the purposes and focuses of community action,
Right.
is to work with others and collaborate.
Your
But,
network.
yeah, in case of, so in my job, I'm it,
Yeah,
I'm the only one that does my job.
right.
So my relationship could then possibly be with whoever's above me,
Right.
or very well could be with my clients.
Right.
So very good. So I'm gonna jump over here real quick. This is the logic model. This is what it looks like. Does anyone here have any experience working with the logic model? Okay, so you will today. So we're going to fill in each of these cells today, but at the very bottom, there is a gap here. And that's our foundation. So we're gonna put our M for our mission statement down here. This is kind of our little visual aid for you to see how this is built. And when you're planning and you're working on a project, it is always important to use a logic model. Whatever pieces you may choose to use, but if you can get it down on a piece of paper in a logic model, that's how you can show your funders that this makes sense. This is how you can show each other if you have an idea. But right now, we're working on mission. I think if it's okay with you guys, we're gonna take a quick little break for you so you can stretch and shake off the release. No? You know, unless you wanna just, nose to the grindstone and get going. Why don't we, is 15 minutes still okay? Why don't we take a quick 15-minute break? What's gonna happen once we've done that? This is what our projected outcome is. So Lucy wrote this up for us. She rewrote it for us. So jobs will be created by the end of, what did we decide? We were gonna collaborate with our employers to hire our clients. So, Drucker has told us that Drucker's given us a quote that is very helpful when we're determining how to move forward and filling out the rest of our cells here. It says, the self-assessment process leads to a plan that is a concise summation of the organization's purpose and future direction. That's what we're trying to accomplish today, right?
What page are you on?
So far not on any yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm just kind of getting us prepped. We've gone through the cycle, we've done assessment, planning, and now we're into implementation. Now we're going to put into works what we've decided or said that we were going to do. You can turn to page 50. move her coffee over here so I don't tip it over. So page 50 takes us back to Drucker's questions. Drucker's question number 5 is, what is our plan? Now you mentioned you have, every CSA or CA has a 2-year plan. This was actually mandated in Information Memorandum 49. And in the center of the page there, it says, the identification of the core activities for eligible entities. IM 49 specifically identifies these activities as the responsibility of the entity and its board. So you guys are included in this plan, and the plan goes from you to the staff, back up to you again. And in order to do that, these logic models need to be pulled into every step of the way. So you're going to do a logic model when you're determining the plan. Then the staff is going to implement this plan, and they're going to do logic models when they're creating their programs. Then they're going to send it back up, and you guys are then going to do another logic model when you're looking at the performance of that program to see how it's done. So this is a never-ending cycle. How many here are entrepreneurs? Entrepreneurs? How many own a business? Has anyone ever written a business plan? Okay. A lot of our non-entrepreneurs wrote business plans, I see. So a business plan is something that is fluid. It's ever-changing, ever-evolving, as is the community actions 2-year plan. There's a reason it's 2 years, because if we wrote a 10-year plan, we'd be stagnant. We'd probably either meet our mission or accomplish what we wanted in the first 2 years and then just kind of float until the next 10 years comes. Drucker says, work doesn't get done by a magnificent statement of policy. Work is only done when it's done by people. People who are properly informed, assigned, and equipped. Which, that was also on page 51, so that you guys can have that in case some of you, if those of you input people, do you collect quotes? Yes. Okay. So for those input folks, there's a quote for you. Down at the bottom, the agency's strategic plan guides the implementation of your strategies to achieve results. But before you can implement your plan, you must understand the elements which must be operationalized for quality service delivery. These include 1, identifying the fundamental elements necessary for implementation, and 2, identifying procedures and personnel for observation and reporting of the results. On the next page, I'm going to introduce you to someone named Reginald Carter. And please forgive me, I misspoke at the beginning. Peter Drucker didn't write the accountable agency. I think Doug knows that. Reginald Carter did, but I'm sorry. As soon as I said it, I went, oh, that was incorrect. So, the accountable agency was written by Reginald Carter. And this gentleman, it was an amazing, amazing man. He was the director of planning and evaluation for Michigan. Michigan Department of Social Services, and as well as, so in the meanwhile, he's a professor of sociology at University of Wisconsin. He gave us 7 questions when we are looking to determine what kind of budget we're going to give to programs. So it says all agencies should be able to answer these 7 questions in order to justify the budget amounts that will support the activities of the agency. Question 1, can someone read that for me?
Page 52?
Yes.
How many clients are you serving?
Okay. But Tim, why don't you just go ahead and go down all 7 if you can, yeah.
Who are they? What services do you give them? What does it cost? What does it cost per service delivered? What happens to the clients as a result of the service? What does it cost per outcome?
Okay. So is this information that you were going to want when you're determining what programs that your agency is going to have and run?
Certainly.
Absolutely, definitely. So question number 1, on page 53, how many clients are you serving? Well, this seems like a very easy question. However, at what point are they considered a client? So in your practice, in your agency's practices, is it when they walk through the door? Is it when they're enrolled into a program? Is it when they've completed a program? At what point are they your client? And now, I'm assuming you only have one program, so you only have to count one type of client, correct?
Yeah.
So are they enrolled in multiple programs? Probably. So, this is, remember when I mentioned that you need to speak the same language? When we are determining the number of clients, you all have to be on the same page as to when are they considered your client. Because otherwise you're gonna have duplicate counts, you're going to have underestimated numbers, you're gonna have overestimated numbers. Yes, Sean?
If our mission is low income, technically our, anyone who falls into the low income category are clients who just may not have received services yet. Just to complicate it.
Well, technically, there's really no right or wrong answer. That's for the board to decide. No pressure. Just saying. At what point do you want your agency to count them? Or what are the rules? Maybe that's already out there. Maybe that information in some of your program is already stated. That's why you pay staff. So question number 2. Who are your clients? So those of you that have to do the reporting know that it is very important to know who your clients are. Meaning not just names, but demographics. There are 11 demographics that Tom and his staff have to report on. Age, gender, they're listed here. So there's age, gender, income, employment, education, disability level, race, and ethnicity.
What page?
53 is still. So this is important information. So we need to know so much about our clients when we're determining who they are and what services we're going to give them. And also, what more could that help us with? If we know all of these 11 demographics, how else is that going to help us? Not just in reporting, but how does it help us when we're determining what programs, what our programs look like?
It helps you target more specifically.
Maybe helps us know what kind of services they need. What if you had a majority of 65 and up? You wouldn't offer youth training programs, most likely. So
School lunch probably isn't an issue.
it may not be an issue.
Golf lessons might.
Might be. Hey, that's an idea.
There you go.
And if they're low income, they can't provide that for themselves.
The reason I complicated with that question is because the software program we're going to be going with, they're a client. Technically, even if they haven't been a program, you can put them into the system and you just have their demographics. So you now actually have stronger marketing efforts, even a donor base down the road.
How did you get their name?
Well, there's a lot of ways we can get their name. So for example, they may not be a client of the food bank, but they're a client because we have their demographics in the system. Maybe a long time ago, 10, 20 years ago, but you can put somebody in if they're low income, even if they haven't received a service yet
So
in the
could
program.
you just like go out and buy clients then? You could buy less than
Database.
10,000
Theoretically,
Technically, you can.
Yeah.
However,
Mhm.
Are they truly,
I mean, PG&E's list, theoretically, yeah, but, you know, the logistics and the cost of that, but that's why I bring it up, because with the new system, technically, anyone low income can be put in the system and seen as a client who's having received services.
but even if with your data input person, you're gonna have to give them some boundaries, say, listen, don't just go through the phone book.
Yeah,
It's
they would
more-
have to be a low
Somewhere you're gonna have to
income
establish-
person.
Right, you're gonna have to, and somehow you're gonna have to access that information as to what qualifies them as low income.
Yes,
I
but,
think all systems are similar to that. It's what you do on the second step, not just the demographics, but what you do the second step, whether they're in this program, that program, or that program. That's when they become a client. You can set it up that way.
well, and I think this is asking is just because, and this is your decision, just because they're in the system, are you going to categorize them as a client or are they a targeted population?
they can be a targeted or they can be an unserviced client,
Sure.
depending on how we decide to do it.
So it's up to you guys to determine what the definition of client is.
Well, depending on what your system has the capability to do as well, because I thought we discussed this before.
Right, and
Maybe
I
I'm
think-
just totally wrong, but I don't think our clients are just the low-income people. I really don't.
Again, this is a conversation I think that you guys need to have. You need to take this further. So that, again, you are all speaking the same language. If you're not, then it's not gonna help.
So I guess just to finalize what John said, so depending on what the board determines are our clients, we could have these clients in the system even though they haven't received formally a program service yet.
Maybe we
Well,
don't
you could-
determine who our clients are.
Well, I would think that would be important.
You have to.
to reach our
Well,
mission, or
according to this, we
reach our
don't.
goals. I'm just wondering if it's semantics in that you could have a target population, which is low-income individuals in the county, and a client is someone who's received services. I mean, that's a way you can have somebody's
You
system,
can't.
but they're
What does your
target
mission
population.
say?
A client is anyone who benefits.
I would agree.
And the whole strata of our society benefits from the raising of a few.
But in the mission statement, it's talking
Yeah.
about low-income people.
What does your mission
Well,
statement say?
our food bank does
Statement.
not deliver just, when they do their tailgates, it's not just low-income people. It's to anybody who wants to come to that can receive,
And the low-income people, they have to self-declare.
self-declare,
It's
exactly.
still-
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I think we're getting a little into the minutia of the programs, and I think I would like to stay it a little higher. So let's move on to, we're going to skip on some questions here. Number 3, what services do you give them? Luckily for you, your mission statement gives us quite a few that we serve, so that's good. It's important to determine the relationship between the service and the expected outcome. This is key in the evaluation of the effectiveness of the program. So, our desired outcomes, say, of the lunch program, is to keep children from going hungry, correct? Okay, so what if we give them a backpack? It's a service that we provide, and I'm sure there is a program within your agency that provides that. Is it meeting our outcome? No, but they're better.
Cookies in it, maybe.
If you put yeah. Now let's talk about nutrition. So you're serving them and you're benefiting them. However, that does not meet your targeted outcome. There are other people out there that can do that, so let them. Right now, we're focusing on this outcome. You see where I'm going?
Sure.
So make sure that your services are that bridge that Lucy was pointing out from your need to your outcome. Next question down is we're going to skip to question number 6. What happens to the clients as a result of the service? So Roy, what happens to the children as a result of the lunch program?
Hypothetically, they eat, they are, child nutrition,
Good. They're no longer hungry,
yeah.
we're assuming. And this kind of takes us to a point that Lucy asked me to cover real quick. Is there any research on children's learning and education if their tummies are full?
Yes.
there is.
Okay, so they learn better if they're full. Okay, so moving to Module 5, page 61 in your handbook. We are going to understand how to use data from the Carter's questions to identify performance and accountability. We will learn to identify how to calculate success for, it says CSBG network in 2 ways, but just how to calculate success for our agency. Participants will learn what baseball teaches us about measuring performance. Participants will identify industry standards for performance. Participants will identify measurement tools and processes. Participants will practice matching outcomes and indicators to measurement tools and processes. Okay. So digging in. Carter's 7 key questions, which is the handout that I gave you. It says the accountable agency. Question number 1, how many clients are you serving? Question 3, what services do you give them? And then question 6, what happens to the clients as a result of the service? So next thing we're going to do, these are all measurable. We're going to look at measuring our performance. So the bottom paragraph here says, we saw in the creation of the indicator that we establish a relationship between the number of clients who were served and the number of clients who achieved results, such as 10 out of 50 got a job. This is the basis for calculation that follows. Can someone please help me and read the numbered lines here to number 5 on page 63?
Identify the outcomes, identify the service, identify the number of people receiving the service, identify the outcome indicators, estimate performance.
Okay, so it looks like what we're trying to do is, it says there are 5 steps used to identify expected performance, and then the final 6th step to determine actual performance. How do we know that we're successful? we have success rates. I heard someone mention percentages earlier. So in order to determine how we're doing, we wanted, what was the percentage that we decided we wanted to get? A 60% success rate. Okay, so we're gonna come up with that ourselves. On page 64, there is a family self-sufficiency program has enrolled 20 families who will receive case management services over the next 6 months. It is estimated and projected that 7 of the families will increase their household income as a result of various activities coordinated by the case manager. They've already come up with their outcome, which is what? Okay, and what's the service that they're gonna offer?
Case management.
Okay, and the number to be served?
420.
Thank you. And the outcome indicator, what's that? Okay, and we're gonna look at projected success rates. 7 families who will have achieved the outcome divided by 20 families receiving services. Okay, so a family self-sufficiency program has enrolled 20 families, right? We're estimating here. We're gonna determine what we think, how we think we're going to do. So how many are they estimating will increase their household income? 7. Okay. Percentage rate there is 35%. We're estimating that 7 will succeed and 20 will be served. Sound good? Okay. After the service has been provided, the program identified the actual numbers of clients who achieved the outcome within the established time frame and calculated the success rate. So it's underlined here, it says this requires follow-up. So we can't just put them in the program and then walk off and say, yay, we did it. So offering a service is a success. How many actual number of clients achieved the outcome?
5.
And how many were served?
20.
We've got a 25% success rate, right? Okay. Now we're gonna get trickier. Actual performance with reduced denominator. The next page talks about doing this. So, we have a dropout rate, right? Are we going to assume that all 20 of these individuals are gonna make it through? We have 5 that actually achieved it, but how many probably didn't show up? So step. We refer 14 at one time. How many typically come?
5 to 7.
Yeah. So there's a lot that we've offered the service to. We make the referrals, but 5 to 7 actually show. So in this case, 15 actually showed. Okay? So we lost 5. How many completed it?
5.
So we've got 2 different stories here. We've got the actual performance. We have out of the enrolled, we've got 5 that completed out of the 20 that were enrolled. But when we really look at how many really completed the class, this is a better number. Right? I mean, it looks like we succeeded a little bit more. Now let's talk about our skills at projecting. Let's talk about that. How many did we say were going to make it?
7.
How many actually made it?
5.
That gives us a 71% rate of projecting. That's pretty good. Means we did a very good job. I see a lot of confused looks. What's the question?
I'm not confused, that's just
Yeah.
manipulating numbers
I'm
to
right
get
there
what you
with you.
want.
Wait a second.
It's pretty.
So, but not saying one is better than the other. These are still stories, both very vital. We need to know how many were enrolled, but then we also want to know how many stayed in. So you need both numbers. This is very important to know, are you actually doing your job? Does that make a little bit more sense? I'm not reporting only on one. I mean, that's kind of a agency decision there, but it's nice to know, okay, I understand the real story is here. The paper story might be here, okay? So now that we've got results, we can add another cell to our logic model.
Is there a reason why you're putting up that in a different order?
I did, because, so we created our needs first, we need to determine what our outcome is before we can decide our strategies. So these are the only two that I went back and forth with. Now I put this one down here because this one depends on all of these as well as these. But we still are going to end up with results first. The next tools, or next one we're gonna move into, so number 5 completes the logic model as far as services offered, collecting of data. Now we're gonna move into kind of logistics as far as 6, 7, and 8. So look at, I'm losing my voice. We're gonna look at our outcome indicator. We have determined that 6 out of 10 individuals will obtain education sufficient to enter the workforce. How many do you think are actually going to do it? Because we projected 60% right here, right? So let's pretend it all happened. This is projected. Let's pretend we completed the class. How many dropped out? Okay.
2.
That's what I'm going for. So we've got 6 that completed, 2 dropped out, and granted step is a little different, but so we've got 6 out of 8. Maybe the other 2, they just didn't do so well, or it just, yeah. So even still, our projected, our skills, our projecting skills are pretty good. We've still got a pretty good amount of skills there. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. Okay, on page 67, we're gonna skip over that and look at page 68. How many here know baseball? Okay, so pardon me, I'm so sorry. What does batting 1,000 mean?
Every time you come to the plate, you get a hit. At least it is
How likely is that?
highly unlikely.
Okay,
You've only batted once, maybe.
Yeah.
There you go. Play with everything.
okay, so very good, so that makes sense to everybody. So the batting 1,000 means that you would hit the ball every time you were at bat. And what does an at bat mean?
Come into the plate, swing the bat.
Okay, so just showing it. Well, okay, so picking up the action. But you have to be given the right resources. Okay, so let's look at, everyone familiar with Yogi Berra? Okay. Let's look at the back of his card, and I realize it's a little blurry. So,
That's just how they printed them back then.
and it is too, they weren't very much, back in the day when they had the chisels, is that when? Okay. So, Yogi Berra successfully hit the ball and got on base 30.7% of the time. Was he considered a decent batter? What's his batting average? 307. That's pretty outstanding for those of us that understand baseball, or even if you don't, that's pretty doggone good. However, he was only successful 30% of the time.
Because they didn't have steroids. Just saying.
So, I guess
The nice tool about the baseball thing is actually averages still hold up today in what they look at.
it's really no different, yeah. And I think that's kind of what the point of this is he was a fantastic batter. He broke records. We still look at him as if he's outstanding, and yet he was only successful 30% of the time. So this isn't nearly as bad as we might have imagined. Okay? So even the top in the field is still not always the best, or always as high as you expect it to be. Let's look at the next handout I gave you, activity, success measures in industry. I would like you guys to try and fill these in for me. You can work on them together or as a team, whichever you prefer. And just take a second and fill those in. What's the consensus? Executive management recruitment has a blank percent placement rate.
15%.
Why?
10? 50? 30? 5? 2. How about 20? We have a 20% placement rate.
I just forgot the zero.
New magazine, or what percentage of new magazines survive over 12 months? 3.3.
Yeah.
Movies, blank and blank or blank percent make a profit. 1 in 6. 16.7 actually make a profit. In Broadway, how about 1 in blank, how's that? Or blank percent make a profit?
5%.
1 in 7. 14.3 make a profit. How many music recordings actually make a profit?
5%.
5% actually make a profit.
That's it.
How many prescription drugs actually make it to the market?
20%.
20%.
Oh, wow. My first one.
Okay, so of those prescription drugs that make it to the market, how many actually make a profit?
100%.
33. 33. Okay? So in Pfizer, blank and how many new drugs or what percent make it to the market?
5.
1 in 100 or 1%. How about DuPont? How many of their ideas to generate one major marketable new product?
2%.
1 in 250 or 0.004%. So it looks like an awful lot of effort for not a whole lot coming out. So railroad delivery is plus or minus how many hours?
4.
24. So within the day or so-ish, sounds like my time.
Does that mean your products
Yeah.
within a day?
Oh, okay.
See those guys in Harris? We made about a quarter mile.
That's true.
I was like, hey, they didn't get very far today.
That's true. So just to touch on baseball again, so 1 in 3 times at bat, 1 hit in 3 times at bat is a superstar. 1 hit in 4 times at bat is a successful hitter. So 25% success rate is successful in baseball. So as you can see, performance standards in industry are pretty modest. There's no 70, 80, or 90% success rates here. However, in social services, we don't have this, but we should, because we're dealing with humans, and we're not dealing with, if we all decided how well people would do, they would do fantastic, but it's not up to us. Because they have to
Into our heads from school that
It
you
is.
need to achieve 100%.
It is. But in all of these situations, these are the norm. These are not irregular, these are not poor satisfactory, these are the norm, and they're proven and no one questions them. No one questions baseball. No one questions the fact that they're only 30%.
We know they do. They're just a report.
Yeah, that's dumb. It's baseball. But no one questions the averages. No one questions the success rate. It is what it is because they put it out there that this is the norm. This is what makes us good. And everyone just takes it. So very good. You guys did a good job on those. Sorry. Okay, so we're going to move on to page 73 and talk about our measurement tools. Pardon me. Okay, so I mentioned it a little bit earlier about how do we measure, but I want specifics. What are our measurement tools that we have here?
WPR.
WPR?
Mm-hmm.
We get benchmark performance?
Mm-hmm.
How about Leahy benchmark?
Okay. There's got to be more. I know health has tons.
There are tons, some are added from the database, a lot of them are put in for physical averaging, and Grinnell's gone into databases.
I
state.
CMS net.
Okay, so we have quite a few ways to measure. It says, when you are considering the outcomes you expect to achieve, you need to consider how you will measure the accomplishment of the outcomes. When we consider the identification of the indicator in the last module, we provided examples that included thinking about how you would measure the indicator. For example, improved grades, report cards. Now we need to look more closely at the measurement tools and processes that you will use as evidence. So some ways, it says here's some shortcuts for you. One, you're going to minimize use of soft outcomes. What are soft outcomes? These are the qualitative. So achievement of self-esteem or confidence, meeting or exceeding one's own goals. And that one specifically is, I know that employment, we do that. We set goals with our clients and they meet them. We're not reporting those out to anyone. I know that some counselors would do that with their individuals. Let's set goals together. Self-report of achieving an outcome. Exclusive or inappropriate use of customer satisfaction surveys or anecdotal stories. Yeah.
What? What?
So these are acceptable. We just like to minimize the use of them, but they are acceptable. Use a measurement tool to capture outcomes, which you guys explained some of them that you use. Use a pre-existing measurement tool before creating one. So let's not recreate the wheel and put extra effort into it. A way to do that, I think Sherry, you mentioned that you wanted to talk to Shasta about their missions. So spread wings, go ask others. Research other organizations that may have an outcome framework before creating your own. So on page 74, we're going to talk about measurement tools. According to Mill, we're asking about an assessment or an intake assessment instrument. Today we're doing a pre and post test. We've used customer or client satisfaction surveys, follow-up surveys, observational surveys, and a scale. Who uses scales? Wrong scale, David.
What? I'm sorry, what did I say? What did I?
That was Shane.
Oh, Shane. Since they're so quiet, let's get you in trouble.
I know what it is.
An outcome. It's weird that the guy in the middle was skipped over. It went from David to Shane. Wow.
It was Scott.
Was it Scott who started it all? Yeah, don't say it.
I'll take it.
Okay. The reason I asked who uses scales is because a lot of mental health counselors will use a scale. We'll talk about
The Rundle scale craziness. We all took it.
60 seconds are flat.
For our learning discipline, we refer our college participants to a learning discipline that they use an industry recognized scale for grading and reporting guidelines.
Yes.
What's it called, the Wunschler?
Winsler.
Wunschler or something, ranking scale? It's an industry standard.
We use a customer satisfaction survey.
That's right.
Well, we use it. We use it in business.
Not that.
services.
Yes, we do use. Okay. So we talked about, just briefly get in touch on 74, researching other organizations that may have an outcome framework before creating your own. It gives you a list. So you can go grab those if you like. I would recommend going to other counties. So identifying evidence on page 75, Drecker reminded us that just like we looked at qualitative and quantitative data needed data, we will identify both qualitative and quantitative measures. Progress and achievement can be appraised in qualitative and quantitative terms. These two types of measures are interwoven. They shed light on one another, and both are necessary to illuminate in what ways and to what extent lives are being changed. That make sense? So just because we have numbers, so let's look at this, or even the, here. There's more of a story than just this number, right? So we could include, what about the 5 that dropped out? Maybe one had a heart attack, one had a baby, one got a job. So there may be a story behind these 5 that dropped out. Gingerly stepping over that. Okay, so measurement tools. We've talked about what our measurement tools we will use to document our results. Now, who's responsible for these, taking this data, or taking the measurements?
It depends on which system I think you are working in.
Mhm.
For
So-
medical records, your frontline staff does quite a bit of the demographics.
Mhm.
You're talking about in general or for that?
In general.
Usually.
I just think it depends on the system.
Yeah, that's why I was asking if she was talking about our education or in general, yeah. So it could be your therapist, your case manager, your nurse. Front desk too, some.
Let me give you some ideas of measurement tools first. So, how do we determine eligibility for a program? Income. Yeah, at intake, what do we, income? So that would be what, pay stubs? Pay stubs, bank accounts,
Identity.
okay?
Residency.
Okay. What type of data or what type of tool would you use to document residency?
Rental.
Okay. So if we're looking at education levels, we want diplomas or certificates. Rent receipts, we could do pre and post tests, progress reports. All of these things would fall under tools for measurement. Your data source, where do those come from? Where does your data come from? What softwares do we use? That's that kind of, that would fall under data sources. So we've got an agency database, we have case notes, centralized database, computer spreadsheets, file cabinets if you're still using hard files, individual case records. What else? You guys have HMIS?
Yes.
State databases.
What's
State databases.
State
Meds,
databases,
some, I mean.
meds, right, okay. Now, yeah, state, yeah. Okay, yeah, that's right, it's expanded now. So, under data source, Amy was helping with that one, so we would talk about, we'd add the personnel that's collecting this information. That would go under our data sources. So we have agency staff, partner reports, and then procedures would go under that. So how will the data be collected? Home visits, office appointments, phone follow-up, things like that. These are what you're going to want to write under your data source. Now under frequency, how often are these things taken? How often are you gauging your client's success? quarterly, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, okay?
When it's tells us.
Yeah. Okay, so
Could even be daily.
yeah, I was
If
gonna
it's
say-
in WIC, we wait them,
It
we
depends
wait
on what
them
the
again,
program
and come
is.
back the next day.
So we've determined what our measurement tools are. These are the actual verifications, or what we would call them. Our data source is the actual software, the personnel, and how you're gonna collect the data. And then the frequency is how often do you have to report out? Our logic model is now complete, so now we know how to strategically plan for our agency. So now we want to observe our achievement of results. So page 77 in your book. We're going to quickly fly through some of these. So on our cycle here, we've done the assessment, we've planned, we've implemented our plan, achievement of results. We're going to move into that. So on page 77, we are going to learn the process of creating an outcome scale, understand how outcome scales can be used to measure incremental change and movement towards self-sufficiency. We're going to be able to combine outcome scales to form an outcome matrix to capture multiple interventions, needs, programs, and outcomes, and understand the uses of the outcome matrix and can analyze an outcome matrix. You guys are going to get all kinds of stuff. All right, so.
By the way, while you're doing that, Shasta County's mission statement is partnering with communities to protect and improve health and well-being.
Bad.
Except for a population.
It was in their first ever strategic plan.
Oh, there you go. Well, and the other thing with that is it's readily available.
HRA's mission statement posted on Steve Paulson's store right there.
Yes,
I thought when I walked
everyone needs to know.
upstairs.
No, but that's important though. So those of us staff that don't know our mission statement, where do you find it? Is it on our website? Is it on our brochure? Is it, how do we find it? I had a hard time, I'm not pointing fingers, but I had a hard time finding health services. I don't know how to get to it. So I'm assuming as soon as we all join together, we'll have it just blared everywhere so that everyone knows why we're in business.
Well, it's confusing too because some of them are mission statements and some are.
Yeah. Yeah, that is hard because you
Vision
don't.
statements are in my package. Although my HRA is actually.
Maybe someone's nervous.
Well, is it safe, stable, and successful, I believe? I'd say stable, strong.
Just strong.
Yeah. We argued about that.
You wasn't in the party.
I was inside and I forgot.
And he put his own on there anyway.
He's not hard-headed at all. Okay. That's right. Good, bad, or indifferent, doesn't matter. Does anybody recognize this?
Gas
Yeah, looks like that.
It's a gas gauge, okay. So we've got full, 3/4 of a tank, half tank, quarter tank, and empty. At what point are we in crisis?
Quarters.
I think that's my personal.
That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm asking.
Some people don't go below half a tank, other people like me feel comfortable. And this agency's vehicle fleet, it better not be below half a tank.
So in your personal vehicle, tell me where you're at when you feel like you're in crisis.
Below the E.
My God.
I will. Below the line.
Starts digging at me every time I
Okay.
get in the car.
Goes ding, 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 you have 5 miles left.
Yeah, I know my car, I can go 30.
Well, I thought that too, but on my way back from lunch, mine went ding, 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 and then stopped. 5 miles, it never did that before, so I decided, run out of gas or go back to the gas
Danger,
station.
Will Robinson.
Between
danger.
half and a quarter, you're supposed to fill up, only because if there's an emergency and there's a power outage, and
Oh.
you're not gonna be able to
She's
fill
so
up.
smart.
Well, no, I
Well,
just,
it
that's
depends
just.
on how far out you live.
Yeah,
That's
mean,
true.
Yeah,
If
don't
mine,
wanna run out
if
of
mine
gas
comes
with
on and
food
I'm at home, I'm
there.
coming from the health person.
Does it matter what vehicle you're in? I mean, if I'm in my '69 Camaro or my little Ford Focus, doesn't matter,
Yes.
Yeah.
okay?
It also matters whether you're in a county car or your own
Oh,
car.
David, county vehicle.
Does it matter where the nearest gas station is?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a relative, is what I'm hearing. So full, safe to assume we're thriving. 3/4 of a tank, we're safe. We're not gonna be out of gas. Half tank, we're stable. But come quarter of a tank, this is when it gets tricky. So we're vulnerable. We have to worry about where the next gas station is. What kind of gas mileage does our car get? Are we going uphill? Are we going over a pass? Are we loaded down to the hill? And then E, that's when we're in crisis. And FYI, most of you are here.
This wasn't a confessional.
Well, you could say F equals broke.
F does equal broke. In California, it sure as heck does. Okay. You guys have the same thing on page 79. So this is a scale that was given to us from the Monitoring and Assessment Task Force in the early 1990s. This was developed by a local consensus to figure out where people fell in regards to their success, I guess. On page 80, developing a housing outcome scale. So what we're going to do today is we are going to decide, I think I have it here. We're going to come up with our own housing scale, okay? We're going to pretend that we're creating a housing program, and we're going to document housing situations in King County. So what are some housing, does everyone understand what I mean by housing situations?
Are we talking barriers, hurdles?
No, what kind of housing do we have here?
Multi-dwelling.
Okay. Let's get more specific. Are they subsidized apartments? Are they?
We have some. Not all.
Okay, so we have subsidized renting.
We have subsidized within apartments, and we have Section 8 programs.
Can we just say subsidized renting and that does all of it? Okay. What about renting without subsidies? Just renting? What else?
We do have senior housing.
Ownership?
Senior housing.
Senior housing?
About,
Transit. Transitional.
Assisted, well, maybe that's assisted living. Mental health hasn't called.
Motels.
Just kidding.
how about,
Homeless?
Homeless housing.
But it is a housing situation.
Do we have people living
mobile home parks?
mobile home parks? Park? Okay. Can I drill this down a little bit, the mobile home park? Are we talking about the trailers or are we talking about fifth wheels? Okay, can I separate them out? Campground?
Park.
Is that homeless?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I have a question. What about renting by choice? So say you're renting because you have to, because you can't buy a home, or say you choose to be a renter and you don't want to buy a home. Can we specify that? Are there
I
others?
don't really mind.
It's cruel, but
rest station on I-5.
Okay, is that homeless?
I don't know. Is it when you're there in your RV? I don't know.
Is that like
Well, do they have a home to go back in?
They have their RV.
Yeah.
They park it there because it's free. The campground is $20.
Okay, so if the trailer.
Walmart.
Yeah.
It looks like the Walmart.
Yeah, it's just traveling through. So let's talk about people living within our.
I could get ownership in the same way, as there are people who own their home free and clear. That's what phone, there are people who currently own their mortgage.
Right.
Which can be a risky situation for some, because if there's job loss or income drop, or the rate goes up, there's people that lose their homes.
What about people at risk of foreclosure?
Yep.
So they were here and now they're at risk? Any others?
Living with family?
Living with family? Okay, so I have a question. We've got living with family, and how many in our community that's cultural, and it's by choice? So we've got living with family because you don't have a choice, and then we've got living with family because you do have a choice. Okay, any others? We good? Okay. Bear with me real quick. Just wanna throw that over. Can you guys see that housing list? I can step back. Sure. It's okay. I can step back. Okay. Now I want you to place them on the scale. So which ones of these are thriving?
Ownership.
Well, it depends who you're asking.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's perspective of the person in that situation. Because some people that are homeless really enjoy being homeless, and that's
Yes,
what
there
they
are
like.
some that don't.
We have a gentleman that won't get rid of his dogs. So if he chooses to be homeless, we can help him once he gets rid of his dogs.
So
Well,
just
yeah,
because
but-
he doesn't think he's in crisis, is he still?
Yeah.
Okay.
But-
Okay. So which ones are thriving? What was that? Is mortgage safe?
Not necessarily.
You're a person that's homeless too.
Yeah.
You lose your job and your rent can be saved too.
Subsidized renting could be.
Okay. So we've got ownership is thriving. Is that the only one that's thriving?
No, renting by choice.
Yeah, I agree with Scott, it's a mobile home park.
Renting by choice? Which is technically the mobile home park.
Not necessarily.
Or rental house.
People own their own trailers.
They just rent the
They
space.
just rent the space.
But I don't know if that'd be thriving because you don't have any control on
There
them
is.
jacking up the rates
Well,
or.
that's
But you
when,
don't.
some of our programs are starting to help more mobile homes because more people are living in mobile homes because they're more affordable than anything else.
My parents moved to a mobile home park because it's cheap, and they could actually calculate out their costs. Yeah. Period of
Okay,
time.
so are we placing that under thriving?
I think so.
Okay. Any others in thriving?
What about,
My senior house.
Senior housing?
Protected environment. I think living with family by choice.
I'm having a hard time hearing. So senior housing, and what was that, Liz?
I think families, living with families by choice, just by.
By choice.
Yeah.
I know my son can't live out there without living with his parents.
Okay, so let's move on to safe. Which ones are safe?
Living with family.
Is it?
Not always, not
Because-
because you're.
So we're not living with family by choice, we're living with family because we don't have another option.
But you're safe.
Not necessarily, you're relying on them to let you stay there. You're technically vulnerable if you're living.
Depends on the situation.
Some families don't like each other.
Well, then, if it's, I mean, we have elders live with their kids, their older kids, and they're
That's
still
by
abusive
choice.
too. So that could be.
That's by choice.
Not necessarily.
Cultural too. I was gonna say, I think a lot of this is individual. We can say,
Yeah.
living with family is safe, but if we have somebody that's abusing their children, then maybe it's not so safe, you know?
So
but-
living with family, we're gonna also call couch surfing.
Yeah.
So does that make it a little bit different?
Yes.
Okay. It very well could be, yeah. What else was safe? Is it easier to go under crisis? Let's go to crisis first. What's in crisis?
Car.
What does motel usually mean?
Or you're traveling.
Then you're not living here. Any other in crisis ones?
Transitional?
Transitional? Let me ask. So if I'm homeless and I'm given a transitional, did I actually technically move up to vulnerable?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So this is called a scale for a reason, because it has an up and a downward movement. So you can move up in scales, and you can move right back down as well. So if you can increase your, or if you can better your situation, then you can move up. What else?
That's down in crises.
Foreclosure is vulnerable.
Okay, because we're no longer safe and stable.
Extra foreclosure.
Yeah, that's the foreclosure is vulnerable.
Vulnerable, okay. Because what happens if you're foreclosed on?
Then you're in crisis.
Okay. Huh.
There's very few stable.
So what about subsidized renting?
Stable.
Yeah.
Stable to safe.
It's just stable, you're right in the middle, you can.
What if you lose your subsidy?
I was gonna say that. I would say that.
So you fall back down here.
I think it's more
No, I'd say you're right on the middle, you're stable, because you could either improve or you could lose your you could do something, lose your program and go in crisis, so.
Okay. What page is this? Can you guys look at 81? This squiggly line that I put here, what line is that?
Prevention line.
Prevention line, okay. So at some point, someone's going to have to step in and do something because you're no longer able to do this on your own. These are independent. These two are very dependent on someone else. So if we put subsidized renting here and they lose their subsidy, they are now falling below the prevention line.
But the subsidy is somebody else stepping in and helping.
Right, but they're at least paying their portion here.
Yeah.
It's great that you guys are asking the questions for clarification, and the only reason we're doing this is so that we can all learn how to get on the same page, and that when I see a client and I say that they're stable, and then I send them to a different unit, and they say, oh honey, they're so not stable, we are now on the same page. So we know what stable looks like. We know what thriving looks like.
But then again, they could be stable in your program, and then you refer them over to, let's say, employment, and because they've never had an education or nothing, they're in crisis on yours, but I stabled their housing. I took care of that.
And that's right, and we're actually going to deal with that after our break. So we're gonna take a quick break after we get this finished. And I love how you guys segue me into each and every module, it's wonderful.
I said renting is safe.
because they're paying their own rent right here.
And
Okay.
assisted living should be safe.
Assisted living, okay.
Should.
Yeah.
Should.
You haven't upset your children?
Well, you should be in a facility that's licensed and certified.
Okay. How about the fifth wheel, is that vulnerable? What?
What was it, I'm sorry?
Fifth wheel is vulnerable. Depends on. If
Not
you're-
here.
Well, no, it could if you don't take your time.
It's not here, it's not where they're wanting you to,
I think that could be, because if you're moving it from one place and you don't pay your tax, you can't write it.
So I have a question. Does anyone know the city ordinance of a fifth wheel?
Whether you can live in it or not?
For now.
You cannot. You cannot park your fifth wheel on someone else's property unless you go to, say, the camp or the trailer park and rent a space. So living in a fifth wheel is not a legal housing situation.
Because you can't even park it for more than 15 days at the campsites.
And you can't,
You can't park it like in someone's property for so long.
Yep. You'll get a ticket.
That's
Yep.
somebody ticket too.
You do get a ticket.
When the county has to enforcement, it's eligible for a citation.
Okay, so where is it going?
You go out to,
All right. Did we miss any?
I want to get one of those in the sun.
Did I miss any? Okay.
Yeah, motels down at the bottom of the place.
Alright, so far we've got one stable situation. Okay, so go ahead and take a quick 15-minute break, guys, just to sample, and then we'll come back, refer back to it if you are going to use these scales. And again, this one is specific to housing. On the next page, in order to establish placement on a scale, and I've included this in your handout as well, the sample assessment questions for your placement on a housing scale. You can actually give this questionnaire to your clients. And you can develop this for many of your programs. This is the same thing that's on page 85. So it's a questionnaire, and they can actually go through and answer these questions for you. So you don't have to answer this and decide where they fall on the scale. This is a comprehensive discussion that you're going to have with your client, and different kind of comprehensive discussion, and determine with them in joint efforts. Sorry, if it's an employment thing, we have to do it in comprehensive discussion. But it's a joint effort to determine where they would fall on the scale. So let them answer these questions. Let them determine where they're going to fall. And again, you can create this for whatever program you're working on. I've included also a blank scale for you. So you can take whichever program. That is one of the activities we were going to do today, is we were going to look at a program within the agency that you work on specifically, and you were going to create your own scale for the program. We don't really have time today, but I would highly recommend you try and do this. Employment, we could do this for an employment and self-sufficiency and figure out where they would fall. I've also included directions or how to use a scale, which is also page 86. So this is the same thing that's page 86. It's just using an outcome scale. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move into a matrix. So we're going to take this scale and we're going to throw many different aspects at it. So like Lou said, if I were to just fix their housing situation, are they now self-sufficient? No. If I were just to fix their employment situation, are they now self-sufficient? No. We have to take the entire picture of the family and all of their issues that they're dealing with and create a matrix, and then we can move them up and down on the scale as they succeed. This is also in your packet, and it's not fully complete, so you guys, this is just sample for you, but you can put in here what you think is appropriate for each placement on the scale. So we're going to look at the family's income, their employment, their housing needs, food needs, healthcare, and if you like, you can move into life skills, mental health, substance abuse, education, family support, or transportation. This is also on page So on page 93, it also deals with the family matrix. As well as there's shaded spots, as you can see, there's gray areas on the matrix. And then there should be dates, also in gray. The reason these are gray is because that is where the family is currently at. So come first assessment, February 1st, let's look at the income column here. First assessment, February 1st, the family was between 50 to 100% of the poverty level. On May 1st, they moved up the scale to between 100% to 125% of the poverty adjustment size 4. What caused that movement? Can you look down the scale and figure that out? They got employment. So someone received a part-time employment without benefits. So back to the income scale, they moved up yet one more time, the third time we followed up in August. So there was 3 assessments here. There was the initial intake and then 2 assessments afterwards. And then August 1st, they moved up to between 126 and 175% of the poverty level. That's a great improvement, and this is wonderful for the client to see. Because if they can see these little wins, as little as they may be, they can see themselves moving up the scale. So even if they started out as stable, as long as they're seeing a progression, then this is fantastic for them. And they can also see when they move backwards. It's a great eye-opener. You don't have to do as much work as a case manager. It's a good tool for the client to understand where they're at and what they need to do to get where they want to be. So if I were, say I came in crisis and my family's income was between the 50 to 100% poverty level, I knew that it would take me having to get a part-time job in order to move up. And then I would have to get a full-time job to move up. And then, right, so you can see what it's going to take for you to move up the scale. And they've made multiple different, if you look under education and training, they obtained their high school diploma and they received them, they have to take their tests, GEDs. So there's February 1st, May 1st, and August 1st. So that might have had something to do with the obtaining the job. So you can see how each one of these moves the family up the scale. Any questions on the family matrix? Okay. This matrix and scales, you can use either the scale or the matrix, whatever you want to put, but you can use this for a program. So when I talked about strengthening or abandoning a program, you can find out where the program falls on the scale and see, is it in crisis? Is it vulnerable? Is it thriving? If it's thriving, then fine. But this is going to help you determine how your programs are working. So let's move into completing a logic model. Module 7, page 95. You're going to learn how to construct and use a ROMA logic model. You identify short, intermediate, and long-term outcomes on the logic model, and how to use related scales. How to use these related to scales. Wow, you know what I mean. Participants will understand how analysis of data in a logic model can lead to improved program management, decision-making. Participants will understand how logic models can assist in the targeting process. And in the back of your book, you can see that there is also a new e-logic model that you would have to purchase that you can use, and it's all electric. What am I trying to say? Electronic?
Yes. It's automated.
It's electric. You get shocked at times. It's been a long day, guys. Okay. Let's move into our logic model. All right, so first and foremost, we're on page 97. What is it that you need to do in order to start your logic model? What was the number one?
Identify the program.
The need, the problem, or situation? Oh, Shane's actually right. So first and foremost, we need to figure out what we're doing the logic model on. So are we doing it program-based? Are we doing it, what program are you going to put the logic model on? Is it going to be the strategic plan for the agency as a whole? What is it going to be?
So, and just for clarity, that decision was made a while back in UNT that there would be a logic model for each program that we chose to modify, and hopefully one overall, I'm not sure about the overall.
That's a huge feat to take on, but that's fantastic that each program's gonna get their own.
It's easier said than done.
Kind of, yeah.
Which programs have you designated to have to
Oh,
watch?
you know, I'm just an attendee at
Hopefully those who don't
It's a
currently
great
have
question.
a benchmark.
You know, right now, for these, they talk about, you know, where's your program at, as, you know, right now, we're pulling out of vulnerable and stable, so.
Right, and actually, it really had a lot to do with the program and our integration team coming into being, and that's kind of what we were waiting for.
Okay.
So, we're getting close, but there is no real good answer to your question, because there's not.
But you guys will be doing these. That's fantastic though, that's neat that each program's gonna get it. And like David said, not every program will receive this, but because some already have benchmarks that they, but ours don't. A lot of them don't have benchmarks, so you're gonna be creating your own. So you're gonna identify the name of the program, you're going to identify whether it's a family, agency, or community-based logic model. So what's your need? You're gonna write the mission statement for the program or service. Now, I don't recommend that every program gets its own mission statement, but you're at least gonna wanna write down what is it, why do we do this program? Why do we have it? Not because it's a great cause, okay? And then you're gonna fill out the columns. So the first column, like you guys had said, was you're gonna identify the need. Next one, you're gonna identify the service or activity. And I would recommend determining your outcome before you do that. So you have to determine your goal before you decide what you're going to do to accomplish your goal. So I would put, identify the outcome first. Identify the outcome indicators, so you're gonna put numbers to your outcome. Fourth one, after the service has been delivered, you will identify the actual number who achieved the outcome. So this would be your results. Next, you're going to identify the measurement tool. You're going to identify the type of tool used to collect or measure the outcome. And then you're going to identify the data source, collection procedures, and personnel. Don't forget, there's 3 in 1. The last one is you're going to determine the frequency of data collection and reporting. And then do you remember what the proxy outcome was? Do you remember us speaking about that? So the proxy outcome is, I'm choosing to give this family food stamps. And what they're going to do with it is, once that child eats and has a full belly, then he's going to do better in school. That's the proxy outcome. That's not one that I planned for, but it's going to happen anyway. And there's research that backs that up. Okay, so you guys are going to get to build your own lunchbox. On the following pages, on pages 100 and 101, and then also in your handout too. There are logic models here. And I printed this out for you so you have your cheat sheet, your little checklist. You're going to get into groups. And we can do it, we'll just stay in the same groups we've been in, if that's all right with you guys. You are going to determine what program you're going to put on the logic model. You're going to determine the need, the outcome, the service, and so on. Okay, any questions? And yes, you have time. Any questions? Okay, go ahead and start.
Sarah has our.
Sarah, okay, my dear.
She's our scribe.
Totally thrown them.
She looks like it.
Yeah. What program were you guys evaluating?
The Healthcare Collaborative.
Okay. And I'm assuming organization is HHSA.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are we looking at a family, agency, or community logic model?
Well, that would be a
Family, agency, or community?
agency.
So just so you guys know, if you haven't completed the top part yet, I'm going to ask you.
No, it's agency.
It is agency.
Agency, okay. So what's your need?
Our need is healthcare for clients who do not have a healthcare home or doctor, is what that means.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, and your outcome?
Our outcome is individuals will obtain healthcare through referral and linkage.
Good. And so what services are you gonna offer them?
Case managing a group of 15 mental health clients and link them to a healthcare home in the next 6 months.
Okay, good. And so you've already got a number in there, which leads me into your indicator. What does your outcome indicator say?
Our projected number is going to be 20 out of 50, giving us a 40%.
Okay, did we write this in a statement?
No.
So outcome indicator looks like
You
this.
only gave us 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
Good to go
I know.
first.
Yeah.
But it's just, an outcome indicator looks exactly like your outcome, but it has numbers added. That's the reason I asked, okay? So what was the total amount you were gonna serve?
50,
And how many are you projecting will do well?
20.
20 out of 50 will what? What's your outcome?
Will obtain a healthcare home.
Okay, and in how long?
6 months.
Okay, so under your strategies, you put the time frame there. Move that over to your outcome indicator. Okay?
Okay.
You got it.
Done.
Done.
All right, and then actuals. How many actually obtained?
We said 18 out of the 50, giving us 32%.
Fantastic, okay. And what kind of measurement tools did you have?
The case management notes and referral numbers, attendance through the healthcare home or doctor.
Okay, and then who's going to collect that data?
The case managers, nurses, attendance logs.
Good, all right. And your data source, your collection procedures.
Oh, well, I kind of skipped that. So it'd be the case management notes, the referral numbers, the number of the appointments, attendance logs, and, yeah.
Okay, so that one's actually the data source. The
Yeah.
the measurement tools, what was that one?
It would be the case managers and the nurses.
The notes and the
Notes and
attendance logs.
attendance logs, I got
So
that.
those are tangibles. Measurement tools are
Yes.
tangibles.
Yes.
So the attendance logs, case notes, things like that, good. And then frequency, how often are you gonna collect your data?
Monthly.
Monthly, very good. Did you guys happen to come up with a mission statement at all? Or the mission
Yeah,
of the
that's what I
program?
was again. You're good, yeah.
I was gonna say.
To provide to our community.
Look at you thinking on the fly.
A healthcare
A
home.
healthcare home.
Well, fantastic. Give her a round of applause. Good. Anyone else?
We'll go.
Go ahead, Mary.
So we were going to increase individuals' access to preteen vaccinations,
What was your program?
immunizations,
Okay, and are we family, agency, or community?
family.
Family, okay, and so your need was what again?
Increase individuals' access to preteen vaccinations.
Okay, is that your outcome or your need?
That's our need.
Okay,
Our
could it be
Our
lack
outcome
of?
was going to increase the rates.
Okay, a need is typically worded, lack of, maybe lack of immunizations?
Uh-huh.
Okay, all right, and your outcome is what?
Our outcome is increased immunization rates of preteen vaccinations.
Good, okay, and then what service did you come up with?
The service was to link parents of preteens enrolled in Glenn County schools to community providers and health department clinics through
Good.
school outreach.
Good, okay, and then did you have an outcome indicator?
We already said that one. Do you want me to say increased immunization rates?
The indicator, the
Oh,
numbers.
Which one? Sorry. Out of the total population of 4,000, 1,000 or 25% of unvaccinated preteens will be vaccinated over a 12-month period.
Wonderful, good, okay. And
And
then
the
your
actu-
actuals,
10% or 400 were vaccinated.
okay?
And the measurement tool was the immunization registry, and the people responsible for that were the clerical and clinic staff inputting into the registry, and we are going to look at it quarterly.
Very good, well done, guys, good job. Anyone else?
Hey, wait, they didn't do their mission statement.
What's your mission?
Increase the overall health of Glenn County residents.
There you go.
Good job.
Good, in YY County. Okay, how about you guys? No seconds. You guys wanna go?
Sure.
That's right.
Ours is real.
What we.
Go. So, yeah, I mean, we're actually got a real issue that we're
Yeah,
dealing with.
we took a potential issue
Okay.
that could happen and tried to work it through.
All right,
So
what's your
a potential
program?
issue is a large 35% cut to the lighting contract.
Is that your need?
That's the problem.
Okay. Real quick, what was the program that you're working on?
Lighting
Lighting, okay. Family, agency, or community-based?
agencies.
Agency, okay, so your need is the cut,
Yep.
okay? And your outcome?
Is to continue to provide service in all three counties regardless of contract amount.
Good luck.
Cecilia, do you need CPR?
I was gonna say, oh my God, I just lost my breath.
All right, Chief. And how do you get to this?
Through services that provide long-term results, we would expand the weatherization portion of the lighting contract to meet 130 dwellings over the next 12 months.
Okay. Did you include your outcome indicator? Is that what I was hearing?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So say.
I have broken it down further on the outcome indicators. I
Oh,
said in
okay.
general.
Tell me what that is.
Increase Trinity by 5 units for weatherization and emergency heating, Glen by 5, emergency by 3, Calusa by 5, emergencies by 3 over the next 12 months.
Okay, so increase by, so we would have to get the actual numbers of how many are going to be served and how many you project to be served, and that would have an increase to, like you said, the number, okay? And 5 months?
12 months.
12 months. Okay, and then how many did you actually?
120 out of the 130.
Okay, wow.
Yeah,
Seven
so
months.
with
That part's-
with decreased spending
Yeah.
resources, I want you to understand this.
Yeah.
No, we're redirecting. So we're trying to reduce resources being spent on one-time events such as providing energy, propane, or other types of fuel and replacing it with a long-term solution, which is weatherizing their home and reducing their demand for those types of things.
Smart.
Yeah.
So you're creating some solutions.
Trading off these.
So you guys do a budget often?
No questions. No
You can tell our residents that.
So,
We have a free gift.
That's why I said no questions.
flowers will be expected. So.
We don't care about what's growing at your house.
Yeah, that's the other thing, we'll turn a blind eye. And your measurement tool?
Most inspected jobs. Inspected jobs, inspected people's jobs.
So your inspection sheets, and the personnel that would do that is the inspector themselves. Okay, and your data source.
Servtrack.
I'm with the city on that one. We have no more money. How are you gonna do that?
We're gonna take from you and have more on the weatherization side.
And how often are you going to collect your
Oh,
data?
yeah, that's a good. Monthly.
Okay,
Should
good.
I be starting to assess?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very
I'll
good,
send you
guys.
the training with me.
So good luck with that, and,